Sidney Powell releases the Kraken in an error-ridden PDF that I do have linked up in the Discord if you guys want to go and take a look at it. The dogs that the news media is so excited for with Joe Biden take an attempt at his life. We'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. Redistricting comes to the House, and we will see who is on the chopping block and who is safe. And Eric Clapton and others make a protest concert in protest of the lockdowns. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. How was your weekend? How'd you guys do over the weekend? Did you do anything fun? Were you still spending time with family? That's the important part here. Did you defy your governor's orders? If your governor had such orders there, I spent some time with my family. Not over the weekend, just on Thursday. I had to be back here and work on Saturday. And plus, we did across the board, which was amazing, by the way. Thank you to Steven Ignoramus, Quest Fanning, Jessica Green, and Angela Ramirez for coming in and hanging out with us for that. That was pretty epic. We had a lot of stuff to unpack. We unpacked a lot of stuff, a lot of good opinions. I want to do another one of these somewhere in the near future, talking about selling liberty to people who are not liberty-minded. And I want to see if I can get somebody really, really leftist and progressive on to see if we can try to sell liberty to her. I actually got somebody in mind. Somebody who's been a friend of the show and somebody who has taken a hard left turn in the past few months. So, love to take some time and sit and see what she would like to see in order to sell her liberty, and possibly get somebody from the hard right in there as well to see. And, maybe get Elaine and Brian Nichols in to be the salespeople. That sounds like that'd be a good panel. But we'll look to that for somewhere out in the future. We've got a lot of stuff to get to today, including stuff that I couldn't even get to today. I had to cut a couple things for time, including there's some discrepancy over whether or not Brian Kemp is erasing the voting machines in Georgia. I haven't been able to verify that, and I had to cut that for time because I have no verification for that. But that's one that we're watching closely here. But before we get into anything that we do have here, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, carrying great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Generational Gap, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, which he just put out a new episode, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Let's look at what the stocks are doing. We had an abbreviated stock day on Friday, going through all the way. They stopped at 1 o'clock Eastern time, starting at 8 as usual, with a sharp up, and then a little bit of a tumble back down below the close, then ending back up 0.13%. It was a mostly flat day that went up and down, but not very far, and then ended up again. So let's see what the investors have to say. Looks like the futures are down, but everybody's still positive over this because we're going to get rid of the evil orange man. I don't have the live chat up. What do you guys got going on here? All right, let's keep going. From IBD, Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures, stock market rally, eyes coronavirus vaccine news, why Apple, Neo, Zoom video are key, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures and S&P 500 Futures fell slightly off Monday morning lows, while NASDAQ Futures rose. Moderna reported positive final data from its coronavirus vaccine before the open, with plans to file for FDA approval today. The stock market rally was strong last week, with the Dow Jones and NASDAQ Composite both hitting record highs. But there is a disconnect between the robust, secure action in the major indices versus some more speculative names and high bullish sentiment. Analyze your stocks before Monday's open, especially your winners. Then watch Apple, CrowdStrike, Neo, and Zoom Video Communications this week. CrowdStrike and Zoom Video stock report earnings this week, while Tesla, rival Neo, will likely report monthly deliveries. Apple stock is simply the ultimate mega cap with a valuation of $1.98 trillion. All four are important to their own right, but they also have broader stock market impact. Zoom video earnings and guidance on Monday night and Zoom stock reaction will be key as looming coronavirus vaccines loom over stay-at-home stocks. CrowdStrike stock is perhaps the top cybersecurity play right now, but it'll share the spotlight Wednesday night with two other leading security software names, Zscaler and Okta. All have cleared early entries. Their results and guidance will be important for the cybersecurity group and cloud software broadly. NIO stock is the biggest of the Chinese electric car startups. Can NIO continue to show strong month-to-month growth, satisfying lofty investor expectations? Is there room for all that hot EV stock to keep growing fast in China? XPeng and Li Auto, both 2020 IPOs, may also release monthly deliveries next week, along with the more established BYD Co. Industry-wide data, including Tesla production and deliveries, will likely be released in the following week. Apple stock could move markets, especially if other slumbering megacaps like Microsoft and Amazon, whom the government got all of their competition out of their way, all their small business startups, and everybody else who couldn't be bothered to go and work in person because they're non-essential. A revived Apple could buoy leading iPhone chipmakers Qorvo and Qualcomm, both of which are near buy points. Yeah, don't buy Apple. I own exactly one Apple device. It's a retired iPhone that I bought for $100 in a Culver's parking lot one day. And all I do is listen to podcasts and music on it. There's no signal that goes to it. It's old, so I can't get any of the new software for it. But yeah, the audio platform is a little bit better. But other than that, the thing is a piece of crap. I'd punt it if it didn't have 75 hours of podcast on it. All right, Tesla stock is on the IBD leaderboard. Apple stock is on the leaderboard watch list. CrowdStrike stock is on Swing Trader. Dow Jones Futures fell 0.45% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures retreated 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.25%. Dow Futures improved slightly on the Moderna coronavirus vaccine news. China's official manufacturing index rose 0.7 points to 52.1 in November, better than expected and the highest in 3 years. S&P Global agreed to buy rival economic and financial data group IHS Markit Info Limited for $44 billion, including assumed debt, the largest merger deal of the year. And Nikola and GM reached a non-binding memorandum of understanding in which GM will supply fuel cell technology into future Nikola semi-trucks. So a couple people merging, a little bit of futures going up here. Everybody's got the small businesses out of the way. So we will see what happens with the stocks. Let's take a counter view from CNBC, and we will get into the news. We'll talk about the Kraken. By the way, for those of you seeing that in the title and criticizing me for that, I misspelled that on purpose. And we'll see when we look at the PDF, which we will go slightly into, but not very far. From CNBC, the Dow is set to open 140 points lower, but is still on track for its best month since 1987. From Fred Imbert and Ewan Lee. Stock futures fell early Monday as investors looked to cash in some of the historically strong gains logged in November. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 150 points, or 0.5%. The move implied an opening loss of about 145 points. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 futures lost 0.3%. NASDAQ 100 futures traded slightly higher. Futures took a leg down after the Reuters reported that the Trump administration is weighing blacklisting Chinese leading chipmaker SMIC, as well as national offshore oil and gas producer CNOOC. The move would limit their access to American investors and escalate tensions with China before President-elect Joe Biden takes over and kneels down and gives them whatever they want. Those losses were trimmed, however, after Moderna said Monday that the new trial data showed its COVID-19 vaccine candidate was more than 94% effective. The company added it plans to ask the FDA for emergency clearance later in the day. Are you ready to take that needle in your arm, guys? Because they're getting ready to get it to you. And if you think that this government that is currently run by big government Republicans and big government Democrats isn't going to try and enforce you to take this, they're at least going to try. I don't know if they'll be successful or not, or with the stacked Supreme Court the way it is, we'll stop them, but I know they're going to try. So we'll see what happens off of that. Once again, for the most part, it's saying that everything's going to rise because vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. So we'll see what happens. Let's get into the news of the day. Starting with CBS46.com. I believe this is out of Georgia. It doesn't say. Error-riddled lawsuit filed in Georgia by ex-Trump lawyer from Tim Kephart. Can I get a confirmation on that? And I'll check over to the live chat to see what they're saying off this. But was she actually on the Trump legal team? Because I've never been able to confirm or deny whether that's true. I've never been able to confirm or deny whether or not she was actually on the team or not. There are some people that are saying that she was, and some people that are saying that she wasn't. But let's talk about the Kraken here. Sidney Powell, the lawyer dropped by President Donald Trump's legal team after making grandiose claims of a worldwide conspiracy, filed a lawsuit, complete with numerous typos, claiming election fraud in the state. And of course, that was what everybody in the world focused on, was the typos, not the content, but the typos. Now, I've not read this yet. I'm going to do this after I click the camera off, and we'll talk more about it in the Red Net show tonight, but I'm going to sit down and read as much as I can out of this and figure out where it is that they're going. But yes, for the most part, most of the news media is focusing on the fact that it was full of typos. Powell became infamous with her claim in an interview that she would release the Kraken in election fraud lawsuits. President Trump's legal team, Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, initially had Powell on their team until a joint appearance at a press conference where Powell made claims of a conspiracy involving everyone from the Chinese to dead Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez. Okay, so this one's telling me that she was, and then she got cut loose after the press conference. Things started poorly in the newly filed lawsuit, with the word district misspelled district with 2 C's, and in the same header, the word was again misspelled districtoit, Distrcoict. From there, the lawsuit, which had no markings from the court and was available only on Powell's website, began making claims of massive election fraud, multiple violation of Georgia laws, and multiple constitutional violations. In a footnote on the second page of the lawsuit, Powell claims the same pattern of election fraud and voter fraud writ large occurred in all the swing states, with only minor variations. See expert reports regarding Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Wisconsin. Indeed, we believe that in Arizona, at least 35,000 votes were illegally added to Mr. Biden's vote count. No court in the nation has found any evidence to support the claims made in previous lawsuits about election issues, including suits filed in Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and other states. Courts don't find evidence. Investigators find evidence, bring them to the courts, and the courts weigh the evidence. If you're going to report on the news, you should probably figure out how the law works. You idiots. Many of the suits have been dropped before getting to court or immediately dismissed by judges for lack of evidence or other procedural problems. Powell's suit said the alleged actions in Georgia was for the purpose of illegally and fraudulently manipulating the vote count to make certain the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States. The suit took note of several Georgia counties, including Forsyth, Paulding, Cherokee, Hall, and Barrow, for especially egregious conduct. The lawsuit makes allegations against Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and their use of Dominion voting systems. Dominion became a target of President Trump, though no claims of questions of the voting systems have been substantiated in any U.S. court. Powell's lawsuit also alleged Dominion and another company were founded by foreign oligarchs and dictators to ensure computerized ballot stuffing and vote manipulation to whatever level was needed to make certain Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez never lost another election. And like I said, I've not been through the lawsuit yet. It is here, and it's also in the Discord there. And yes, as we can see right off in the beginning, I've got 2 C's in District Court, and then right in the next line, Districtoit of Georgia, Atlanta Division. Corrico Haquan Pearson, Vicky Townsend, Concilio, Gloria K. Godwin, James Kenneth Carroll, Carolyn Hall, Fisher, Kathleen Elston, Latham, and Brian J. Van Gundy are the plaintiffs versus Brian Kemp, Brad Raffensperger, David Worley, Rebecca Sullivan, Matthew Mashburn, blah, 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 blah. And there is a lot of, it'll be a quick read because it's all big type like this, and it's only 50 pages. So I'll be through this and kind of going through this. Like I said, we'll look a little bit more into this in the RedNet show today. The link is in the Discord server, which is linked down below you everywhere. So read through it, find all the facts, draw your own conclusions. Definitely want to see where this is going. And once again, the biggest part of this that bothers me more than anything else in this is the fact that there are so many people that are getting angry if you question this. I had another guy that I was going back and forth with last night. I'm waiting for you to provide me evidence. Well, the investigators are looking for evidence right now. I'm just looking at the stats and seeing that it doesn't math. But the big thing to go along with this is the fact that nobody wants you to look in this. Don't look over here. Don't look. And if you've got nothing to hide, especially as the government. Now, if you've got nothing to hide and you're a private citizen, the government's coming after you, then you should tell the government to go and get fucked, because they will find evidence if they need to shut you up. But the government needs to be held in account by its people. So if they've got nothing to hide, throw those doors open and show us what it was that you did. That should be the relationship between the citizens and the government. But we will see. And like I said, I want to go through this a little bit more and see what they've got going with it. Let's keep going. From the New York Post. Joe Biden fractures foot, needs a walking boot. From Tamar Lapine. President-elect Joe Biden fractured his foot while playing with one of his dogs and will need to wear a walking boot for several weeks as a result, his doctor said on Sunday. The 78-year-old Democrat slipped while playing with his German Shepherd, Major, on Saturday and visited an orthopedist in Delaware for an examination on Sunday afternoon. Do you think the orthopedist commented on his hairy legs? While initial x-rays showed no obvious fracture, a subsequent CT scan confirmed hairline, small fractures of President-elect Biden's lateral and intermediate cuneiform bones, which are in the midfoot, according to a statement from his doctor, Kevin O'Connor. He slipped. And I did love watching all the conspiracies pop up all over Twitter over this here. I mean, the guy is ancient. And there is the big thing of, okay, well, let's see what we can do to get this guy in. I don't know. All I know is it's always funny to see, and it's funny to see what the difference in the newscasting is going to be. The softballs to Biden. Oh, look at how cute all these dogs are. Look at, he's bringing cats into the White House versus, what is he hiding in his taxes? What could he be doing? Could he be working a deal with China and Russia? So, it'll be an interesting 4 years if Joe Biden manages to get himself asterisked in. But, as for everybody, I wish no harm on anybody, and I wish Joe Biden a quick and speedy recovery. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire. Pet psychic says she communicated telepathically with Biden's dogs. The Daily Beast runs with it. From Eric Quintanar. The Daily Beast published a lengthy story on Friday about Beth Lee Crowther, a so-called pet psychic who claims to have communicated telepathically with Democratic nominee Joe Biden's 2 pet dogs. Why is this news? Now, of course, it's the Daily Beast, and yeah, that's all I have to say. It's the Daily Beast, but this is the kind of reporting you have to look forward to for the next 4 years, if he gets himself asterisked in. According to the Daily Beast, Lee Crowther says her mind-to-mind communication with Biden's 2 dogs occurred on a British television show when she was presented with a picture of them. The pet psychic said that the 2 dogs proceeded to give her insight into Biden as a person and how he would govern the country as a president. The very first thing I got was that they were both very excited about moving to the White House. Lee Crowther told the Daily Beast, I had a real connection. I felt that excitement of theirs. They showed me that Joe Biden is very bonded to his dogs and has a real connection to them. They kept showing me that although he has rescued one of the dogs feel, in many ways, they have rescued him. Right. This is... Oh, you know what this reminds me of? I assume most of my audience has seen the Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, I believe it was, in the beginning when, was it the first one actually? I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the first one where Bill Murray had the talk show and he was talking with the lady that had the paranormal experience, where the alien brought her to his spaceship that looked like the hotel room in the Four Seasons. That's what this reminds me of. But yeah, I thought you guys would enjoy that one here. Let's keep going. From CNN. Biden announces all-female senior White House communications team. So the ladies are going to be answering the phone, is what you're telling me with this headline, CNN. Let's read on from Kate Sullivan. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris on Sunday announced an all-female White House senior communications team, including former Obama White House Communications Director Jen Psaki as press secretary. I'm proud to announce today the first senior White House communications team comprised entirely of women. These qualified, experienced communicators that smell really good in their hair, and I like to smell them. They bring diverse perspectives to their work and shared commitment to building this country back better, Biden said in a statement. Kate Bedingfield, who served as a deputy campaign manager and communications director for the campaign, will be the White House communications director. Pili Tobar, who served as communications director for the coalitions of the campaign, will serve as deputy White House communications director. Karine Jean-Pierre, a senior advisor on the Biden campaign, who later served as chief of staff to Harris, will serve as principal deputy press secretary. Simone Sanders, a senior Biden advisor on the campaign, will serve as a senior advisor to the chief spokesperson for the vice president. Ashley Etienne, a senior advisor on the Biden campaign, will serve as the communications director for the vice president. So, the ladies will be answering the phone. Good job. Elizabeth Alexander, a Biden campaign senior advisor, will serve as the communications director for First Lady Jill Biden. Why is that a thing? I don't understand why the First Lady got to be such a role in everything. I know Michelle had a big part of that there, but I mean, you've assumed some kind of power for banging the right guy, which I suppose is the reason that Kamala Harris is here, but still. These 7 women, several of whom are women of color, will occupy some of the most visible roles in the administration. Harris, who will make history as the country's first female vice president, described the newly announced team as experienced, talented, and barrier-shattering. I don't understand why these left-wing outlets are so racist. None of this has anything to do with the color of a person's skin or the equipment that they have in their pants. Are they the best people for the job? Well, time will tell. I can't make a judgment on that. I've never seen how any of them perform. But the last thing anybody should be thinking about is the color of a person's skin or what equipment they have in their pants. But that was an interesting one. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yader Hey over in the Beauty and the Beta Frozen North Discord server. Let's keep going. From Fox. Biden still ahead as Wisconsin completes recount. Certification deadline looms. Yeah, I don't buy any of this one here. Just seeing what they did with asterisk Evers in. Oh, look. Hey, we're in Milwaukee. Hey, 3,000 votes. Weird. That brings him right up to 1.1% over. That's weird. But, you know, when you recount the same fraudulent votes over and over again, you're going to get the same result. From Evie Fordham. Wisconsin completed a partial recount Sunday, which added to President-elect Joe Biden's lead in the 2020 presidential election by an additional 87 votes ahead of Tuesday, when the state is set to certify results. President Trump vowed to challenge the outcome in court even before the recount concluded. He spent $3 million to force a recount. The Wisconsin recount is not about finding mistakes in the count. It's about finding people who have voted illegally. It's the worst. Voting illegally is the worst thing, okay? It's the worst. I want to tell these people that are counting the illegal votes, you're fired. And that case will be brought after the recount is over on Monday or Tuesday. Trump wrote on Twitter on Saturday, "We have found many illegal votes. The worst. Stay tuned." The fact that they're saying stay tuned this is all a fucking reality show at this point. Which, we got the first reality show president in 2008. Well, everybody should be paying attention to me because I got a pen and a phone. And then, of course, what do? Have an actual reality TV star come up and put all your eyes on me, okay? Your favorite president, okay? Look up here. Look at me, everybody. Now, we're not going to point the camera at the press box anymore because you should all be watching me, okay? Dane County was the second and last county to finish its recount, reporting a 45-vote gain for Trump. Milwaukee County, the state's other big and overwhelmingly liberal county, targeted in the recount that Trump paid for, reported its results Friday, a 132-vote gain for Biden. Taken together, the two counties barely budged Biden's winning margin of about 20,600 votes, giving the winner a net gain of 87 votes. Democratic lawmaker Mark Elias celebrated the news on Sunday. Trump becomes the first presidential candidate in history to lose recounts in two different states. Trump and his allies remain 1-39 in post-election litigation. That is not true, by the way. They are 1-3 because other people are bringing lawsuits forward, but, just keep trying to force that narrative down there. Certification is done by the Democratic chair of the Wisconsin Election Commission, which is not bipartisan. It says it's bipartisan on here. It is not bipartisan. I've met some of the people that are on the commission. The Wisconsin Voters Alliance, a conservative group, has already filed a lawsuit against the state election officials seeking to block certification of the results. It makes many of the claims Trump is expected to make. Governor Evers, attorney, has asked the state Supreme Court to dismiss the suit. Evers, an asshole, said that the complaint is a mishmash of legal distortions that uses factual misrepresentations in an attempt to take voting rights away from millions of Wisconsin residents. Well, we will see. That's probably going to drop here later today, so we'll be talking about it tomorrow. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Democrat Rashida Tlaib promotes slogan associated with calling for elimination of Israel. From Ryan Saavedra. Representative Rashida Tlaib promoted her tweet on a Twitter account on Sunday that contained a phrase associated with the calling for the elimination of Israel. StopAntisemitism.org highlighted the tweet that Tlaib retweeted, which stated, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Rashida Tlaib's RTs out the same message that got Mark Lamont Hill canned from CNN. StopAntisemitism.org noted, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," code for eradicating the state of Israel and its millions of Jews. Reminder, this is a sitting U.S. Congresswoman. There is there's the tweet, and then there's the retweet to this. You know what? I don't care so much about retweets as I do about direct tweets. She doesn't like Israel. There are a lot of people that were in my Discord server that also don't like Israel. David Duke doesn't like Israel either. Keep that in mind. So, now she's coming out and directly saying, either quoting that directly or, God forbid, saying, "We're going to get rid of Israel!" Then I'd have a little bit more of a problem with it. But a retweet? Not that much of a problem. 232 other people did the same thing. CNN did fire then-contributor Mark Lamont Hill in 2018 after he used the slogan, which the Times of Israel noted was associated with Palestinian extremists. During the speech at the UN, Hamas has repeatedly used the phrase, according to the ADL. A recent report from the ADL described this phrase as extreme. Yeah, with the peace deals in place, Palestine's going to have an uphill battle no matter what. So, we'll see what happens with that. Let's keep going. From ABC News, Supreme Court reviews Trump's plan to exclude undocumented immigrants in redistricting. So, if this, and I don't understand how they're going to verify this. I've been trying to wrap my head around this since they first talked about it. That they were going to disallow illegal immigrants to be counted in the censuses after the fact, given the fact that there was no question in this on what your immigration status was. I've looked over the documents. I've looked over court cases and precedent. I cannot wrap my head around how they plan to verify this. They've clearly got a plan. I just can't figure out what the hell it is. But let's see what we've got going with this from Devin Dwyer. In what could be one of the most politically significant final acts as president, Donald Trump plans to exclude millions of undocumented immigrants from the official 2020 census figures used to allocate political power and billions of dollars in federal funds. But first, the U.S. Supreme Court has to sign off. The justices on Monday will hear oral arguments over Trump's effort, already twice rejected by lower federal courts, that would break from more than a century of precedent in determining the apportionment of the 435 congressional districts across all 50 states. If successful, it would boost the influence of predominantly conservative Republican states and rural communities while drawing resources away from more liberal Democratic states and urban areas. The Constitution requires an actual enumeration to be performed every 10 years to account for changes in the population, that decennial redistricting be based on the whole number of persons in each state regardless of citizen or immigration status. That's interesting. I didn't realize that it was regardless of this. Now, and this is one of the things to go with this. I was in favor of having the immigration status on the census. It takes an act of the courts to get somebody deported. Like, it's not going to be just ICE busts in and throws them out of there. We do have due process of law in this country. And if they start taking it away for illegals, then they get to start taking it away from the rest of us. However, I don't believe that illegal should be counted for the congressional districting. We should know that they're there, because it's not just the districting that the census takes care of. They also do projections for population growth, which helps city engineers figure out what they're going to need for the next 10 years as far as roads, sewers, electric, infrastructure, and elsewhere. So I'm absolutely 100% in favor of using these statistics to figure out how many people live in an area, what their approximate age demographic is, so we can figure out who's going to die off in the next 10 years, who's going to be born, who's going to be making families, etc. Because I don't know about you, but I want my sewer system to continue to work. I'm not a big fan of the federal government running it, because I'm not a big fan of the federal government running anything. But constitutionally, and I'm a constitutionalist before I'm a libertarian, constitutionally, that is one of the few roles that the federal government has, is to conduct the census, to try and figure this all out. But we'll see what the courts have to say off of this. And this could be huge for redistricting. And you could see entire districts get eliminated in some states and some be gained in other states because of this. The number of seats isn't going to change. They set that into place. We actually probably, based on the way the Constitution was set up, we could probably use a few more congressional seats. Have some of these districts broken up. But Congress has spoken and said, no, we're not going to have any more seats in Congress. We can't afford to put more chairs in or something. I don't know what their reasoning is, but we will see what happens. I'm interested in this one. I'm very interested in this and seeing which way it goes. So we'll see what happens there. From Politico, On the same token, the House members already facing the redistricting chopping block. The upcoming reapportionment of congressional seats could hasten the departures of numbers of longtime members of Congress. I got a feeling that New York 14 is going to be gone. From Ali Mutnick. The 2020 elections were ugly. The redistricting battles of the next 2 years will be even more brutal. The decennial process will produce hundreds of new congressional districts, turning safe seats into hotly contested battlegrounds, forcing colleagues into cutthroat internecine wars, and spurring a cascade of early retirements. Ultimately, it will determine the balance of power in Congress for the next decade, and both parties are gearing up for the fight. And given the fact that we are almost at a 50% 50% split, I think it's within a percentage point of 50%, given the way that we're seeing all of the seats play out in this election. It's going to be brutal in the House when they sit back and figure out where the lines go and work with the state houses to do so, which is good because I would love to see a lot more competitive seats. I hate the idea of safe seats. I want to see these guys duke it out. Not people that can go in there and say, oh, I've got a D next to my name. Oh, we're just going to vote for you because you have a D next to your name. We don't care about what your ideas are. Or conversely, in Wyoming, the same thing. Oh, I've got an R next to my name. Oh, we're just going to vote for you because you got an R next to your name. I want to see some of these seats get hotly contested. Now, there's one congressional seat in Wyoming. I don't think that one's going to be contested, unfortunately, but we must win the redistricting war, said Representative Sean Patrick Maloney of New York, a leading candidate to chair the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. It is the battlefield that will determine the House majority, period, full stop. It's absolutely critical. That right there, all they care about is power. They don't care about their people. They care about power. Which I think we knew that for most people in Congress at this point, both parties. It could be months before census apportionment data shows exactly which states will gain and lose seats, and it will take even longer to gauge the impact of the maps. From those drawn by partisan state legislators to commission-drawn maps in places like Michigan and New York. But already there are a few members of Congress who will almost certainly find themselves in more challenging terrain in 2022. Good. Then get challenged. This redraw will be the most painful in the roughly 10 states which are on track to lose a district, particularly ones with smaller populations. That could mean bare-knuckled maneuvering between the 2 Democrats in Rhode Island and the 3 Republicans in West Virginia. States likely to drop a seat. Here are the members who are already at most risk in the redraw, according to interviews with more than a dozen lawmakers, operatives, and mapmakers in both parties in 7 states. And I'm not going to read much of the descriptions here, but we'll give you an idea of who is vulnerable. Representative Jim Langevin, Democrat, Rhode Island. David McKinley and Alex Mooney of West Virginia. Barry Moore and Jerry Carl of Alabama. Rodney Davis, Cherry Bustos, and Lauren Underwood of Illinois. Michelle Fishbaugh and Angie Craig of Minnesota. That would be an interesting one to see. I don't know why they wouldn't just district out Minnesota 5. That would be the first one on the chopping block if I was in charge. Representatives Lucy McBath and Carolyn Bordeaux of Georgia. Sharice Davids of Kansas. And that's it. So, those are the people that are on the bubble. I'm a little bit surprised that New York didn't come up in this one here, because with the exodus that we saw this year and in years past due to taxation, I actually thought New York would be one of the ones that was up on the chopping block, but I know California's not going to get it. California has got some sort of clause in there that we will have 55 lawmakers no matter what until the end of time. But it's interesting to see and where they brought the names up from. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire. Rival House candidates who both attended orientation now separated by just 6 votes after recount. Republican ahead. From Eric Quintanar. Republican House candidate Marionette Miller Meeks of Iowa's 2nd Congressional District now leads over her Democratic opponent by only 6 votes out of nearly 400,000 ballots cast for the race. after a recount in the district diminished her razor-thin margin over Democrat Rita Hart. Although the recounts narrowly nudged the tallies, it doesn't appear to have been enough to completely whittle away the double-digit lead Miller Meeks held over Hart as of 2 weeks ago, reports the Iowa City Press-Citizen. While the race is extraordinarily close, I am proud to have won this contest and looking forward to being certified as the winner by the state's Executive Council on Monday, said Miller Meeks in a statement on Saturday. It is the honor of a lifetime to be elected to serve the people of eastern and southern Iowa. Iowans are tenacious, optimistic, and hardworking, and I will take those same attributes to Washington, D.C. on their behalf. From 24 years of service to our country in the U.S. Army and Army Reserves to my several decades of protecting the health of Iowans as a medical professional, I will bring that same Iowa grit to Congress by working to strengthen our healthcare system, combat the COVID pandemic, and get Iowans safely back to work and school, she concluded. 6 votes. That's insane. In Iowa, no less. Bend, Iowa. It's pretty goddamn right-wing in Iowa. 6 votes. That's incredible. Could that be a record? I'm going to look that up after I get off camera here and see what the record is for the number of votes that somebody's won by in a U.S. House of Representative seats. I'm sure that we've had some, like those little neighborhoods up in northern New Hampshire that vote first for the presidency, where somebody's won a seat or something by 1 vote, like a mayor seat or something. But I want to see what the record is. Maybe there is a representative in there in history somewhere that won by 1 vote. But that's interesting. 6 votes. That's insane. Especially in Iowa. All right, let's keep going. From Fox. Supreme Court sets deadline for New Jersey response to religious gathering restrictions. From Morgan Phillips. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito has called for a response from New Jersey officials after a church and synagogue petitioned the court to intervene in their lawsuit alleging the state unequally applies COVID-19 restrictions to religious activities. State officials must respond by 6 p.m. Eastern Time, December 3rd, at which time the houses of worship bring the appeal would have a chance to respond. The court order could then be issued possibly by the end of the week. Alito, based on geography, can act on the application himself or ask his colleagues to weigh in. The houses of worship filed the emergency injunction request after a lower court rejected attempts to file an injunction. Rabbi Yisrael A. Knopfler and FR, I don't know what FR is, Kevin Robertson of St. Anthony of Padua Church filed earlier this year. Is FR Father? Is that the abbreviation for that? I don't know. I'm not Catholic, so. The First Amendment protects religious exercise from discriminatory value judgments by public authorities in the exercise of emergency powers, the application reads. More than 8 months into the era of COVID, however, religious gatherings in New Jersey and several other states are still being treated unequally relative to numerous comparable secular activities. The complaint also targets specifically the state's mask mandate, claiming it violates the constitutional protection for free exercise of religion, which it does. And we're looking at some of these situations where in California, you can go to the titty bar, but you can't go to church, per the way that they have their lockdown orders set up. In New York, it's color-coded, okay? Are you in the fucking orange zone? Don't fucking talk to me like that, okay? Is the way that they're doing it, and it just so happens that church seemed to keep falling into the orange and red zones. Weird how that works. So, I'm interested to watch this one too. We're seeing a lot of basic Bill of Rights stuff and basic constitutional metal get tested in this presidential cycle. That may be the big legacy that Trump puts forward. Not his stupid fucking Twitter. Not even the peace deals. But the fact that he tested every single gray area in the Constitution, and we have concrete decisions on certain things that were still in gray areas coming right into it in 2015. We saw things that were still in gray areas. And we saw him get challenged. That might be the greatest legacy of the Trump presidency, as now we know. So we'll see what happens there. I got some video here from Andrew Yang. Let me get your ears on. Let me put my headphones on so we can hear what Andrew has to say for this one.
We all know that it's vital that a critical mass of Americans get vaccinated so we can return to some degree of normalcy, but we also know that there's a lot of skepticism. So we should put our money where our mouth is and say, look, if you get the vaccine, we'll give you $1,000, $1,500. We should be putting money into people's hands right now, Boris, because we're asking more and more folks to stay home and stay out of their places of employment because coronavirus infection rates are increasing. So we should be sending money to people right now, but certainly we should be putting our money where our mouth is where these vaccinations are concerned. We all know that
Yeah, he's only got one line at this point. I'm going to give you $1,000. I'm going to give you $1,500. That's all that he has. I don't know if Andrew Yang could say anything else. Well, okay, he can say other things. We saw his debate performance, but they were the same thing. Here's the reason that you need $1,000 a day or a week or whatever the fuck he wants to say. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire again. I know this was a Daily Wire heavy episode. I try not to do that, but there were not a lot of other mainstream outlets that were sharing some of the stories that they were. This is an opinion piece, which I also try to shy away from, but this was almost the thing that restored my faith in humanity today. But I found something better. So, opinion piece from Daily Wire News. Forbes shreds Democrat student debt forgiveness push. Makes mockery of people who've played by the rules. Steve Forbes slammed the push from Democratic lawmakers to pay off the student loan debts of everyone, or nearly everyone in the country, calling it a slap in the face to people who have sacrificed and worked hard to not be in debt from student loans. Forbes made the remarks during a Fox News interview on Saturday. The segment kicked off by showing a clip from earlier this year between then Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren and a man who confronted her about her desire to forgive student loan debt. I just wanted to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I've saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans, the man said. Am I going to get my money back? Well, of course not, Warren responded. So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us who did the right thing get screwed, the man fired back. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did, but I worked a double shift. I worked extra. My daughter's worked since she was 10. So you're laughing. That's exactly what you're doing. We did this the right thing, and we got screwed. Forbes responded to the clip when he was asked if there was an issue of student debt forgiveness being unfair. Yes, there is, and it makes people who paid their debts, took their obligation seriously, look like fools. And if they have this debt forgiveness of any kind of scale, we're going to have people wondering, why should I pay those obligations? Why should I take those extra jobs? Why should I sacrifice a private university to go to an in-state university and save money and honor my obligations? He continued. So you make a mockery of people who played by the rules, and this gets to the big issue, which is, why are college tuitions rising at 4 times the rate of inflation, the sticker price? Which are they rising 8 times the cash wages of working Americans? And that's and there's the student loan crisis does need to be addressed. I'm not going to be one of those libertarians or right-wingers that says, don't you dare even touch that there because, I mean, they did it all themselves. No, there was predatory lending that was going along with that, and the federal government was backing it. The federal government was getting more kickbacks off people and being able to hold people in servitude forever, and the universities were getting more and more money. There is one hand washing the other here. There's a way to do it. I want to go at another time a little bit more into depth onto that. But it's not just forgiving the loans. There are better ways to do this and make sure that everybody still gets paid without completely eliminating an entire sector of business. So, and still punishing that sector for being predatory, essentially. So, I'm going to go into that. I think I might make a solo video about that because it's been on my mind for a while. Maybe I'll do that today. I know I've got to do some work for the RedNet show yet and get the visual aids up for that, but I might do that today. That's a big one for me. Is figuring out how to do this without inflating us into oblivion and getting things going economically, because we're economically stalled right now, which seems to be by design. All right, let's keep going. From ABC News, NFL finds Saints Patriots for COVID-19 violations, investigating 2 other teams. And you wonder why I don't care about the NFL anymore. My sister's house, by the way, is on an NFL boycott too, which surprises people even more than it surprised them when they found out that I was on an NFL boycott. Every picture from September to January of my nephew has him in a Packers shirt. And my brother-in-law just said, nope, we're not going to watch football anymore. So that was a surprise to me, but we'll see what they have to say about this. NFL finds Saints Patriots for COVID-19 violations, investigating 2 other teams. From Ivan Pereira and Katie Conway. The NFL cracked down this weekend on 2 teams who broke the league's coronavirus-related policies and are looking into 2 other teams for possible violations, according to reports. The league fined the New Orleans Saints $500,000 after the players and the team posted a video on social media showing unmasked team members celebrating their November 8th victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the locker room. A source told ABC News the NFL also took away a 7th-round draft pick as a punishment for the Saints' violation, the source said. The Saints are appealing the punishment, according to ESPN. A source told ABC News that the team's steep fine and draft pick loss stemmed from the Saints' repeated violations of COVID-19 protocols and warnings from the league. In September, Saints coach Sean Payton, who was seen in the video, and the team were fined a combined $350,000 after he was seen not wearing a face mask during a game. This is actually happening, people. This is actually occurring. We are in clown world right now. But don't worry, it's all about a virus that has a 99.94% survival rate. We're being saved from that survival rate. All right, let's keep going. From the Hill. Kentucky coffee shop loses license over defying coronavirus order. From Joseph Choi. The Kentucky Alcohol Beverage Control on Wednesday issued an emergency license suspension for a coffee shop after it refused to close down for violating COVID-19 restrictions. Lexington Coffee Shop Brewed was ordered to close on Tuesday, but opened on Wednesday anyway, serving dozens of customers. Owner Andrew Cooperrider said on Tuesday that he would not stop indoor service, the Lexington Herald-Leader reported. Cooperrider is an official in the Kentucky Libertarian Party and posted on his Facebook page that he refused to comply with the new restrictions ordered by Governor Andy Beshear last week. Beshear issued sweeping new restrictions last week, saying inaction is deadly. His new restrictions shut down in-person learning, prohibited indoor service at restaurants and bars, and limited the capacity of gyms, weddings, and offices. Pretending this virus isn't real isn't an option, said Beshear. It's time to do what it takes to finish this fight. Dude, the worst thing in the world was when governments came down and started saying, you need a license to do business. Brewed, you have good coffee. I would like your coffee. I have this money. You would like this money. That's all you need to do business. Why does the government need to be involved? I don't understand. Beshear stated that most restaurants and bars have complied with the order, which went into effect on November 20th. For the businesses that defy the orders, Beshear said they could lose their alcohol licenses and be fined up to $100 by the health department. Customers reportedly crowded the coffee shop on Wednesday, with some coming out explicitly because they're fighting with the governor's orders. Good. Good. Your government is not a dictatorship. As much as Gretchen Whitmer has tried to be. Your governor is not a dictator. Your governor is not a king. And yes, you should be doing your civil disobedience. And as much as I can, I don't associate with businesses that strictly enforce the face leash policy. I don't. There are some things I can't get around, but I go to them as sparingly as humanly possible. But the gas station in town here, they've got the signs up. They don't care. The meat shop in town here, they've got the signs up. They don't care. There are a couple other places, and I'm not going to name names, obviously, but even when you go down into town, there are a couple places that, they've got all the signs up because the government says they have to, and then they just don't care. There is one particular place that I like to go that just says, well, keep it handy just in case some state auditor comes in or something. But if you want to wear like your neck gaiter around your neck, we don't give a fuck. So, I go to those places. I like those places. And once again, why you need the government involved? Again, Brood, you have coffee. I want coffee. I have money. You want money. That's all you need to do for business. Let's keep going. This one's going to have to reload. Looks like. There it goes. From CTV News. By the way, if you want to throw a couple bucks into the computer fund, the PayPal link is in the description of everything else. We are building a new desktop here, and I will do it with your help. I've got all my pieces picked out. Just need a little bit of cash to help me get going. Toronto barbecue restaurant owner facing new charges for again defying COVID-19 lockdown rules, from Joshua Freeman and Carissa Wilson. 2 men are now facing criminal charges, and the city has completely seized a building following a raucous 3-day-long dispute between police and city officials and a restaurateur who brazenly declared that he would open up to serve customers despite lockdown orders in effect to contain a deadly pandemic. Adam Skelly, the owner of the Adamson Barbecue Restaurant in Etobicoke, I don't know how you pronounce that, was arrested by Toronto police officers Thursday afternoon after a crowd of supporters allegedly broke through a cordoned-off section of the building by smashing down a drywall in an effort to reopen the shuttered restaurant. Speaking with reporters on Thursday afternoon, Superintendent Dominic Sinopoli said police allowed Skelly into a section of the building in good faith, because they didn't believe that it fell under a closure order from Toronto Public Health. However, a crowd of supporters then tried to smash through the walls to reopen the facility. At the time, and in good faith, we believe that the rear compartment was not captured by the order itself, Sinopoli said. The individual was allowed access to the rear compartment during the process of him entering. They broke through drywall and entered the restaurant proper, and then from the inside broke out and damaged the locks that were put in place by the city. Sinopoli said Skelly, 33, now faces 1 count of attempting to obstruct police, 1 count of mischief under, 1 count of failing to comply with a continued order under the Reopening Ontario Act, and 1 count of failing to leave when directed under the Trespass to Property Act. Just ridiculous. You're trespassing on your own property. Video captured at the scene Thursday showed a loud and angry scene, and Sinopoli said police were spit at and assaulted. Good. As they tried to enforce the public health orders at the restaurant. He said 27-year-old Michael Belito Arana of Markham is now facing a slew of charges, including 1 count of obstructing police, 6 counts of assaulting a police officer, 2 counts of uttering a death threat, and 1 count of failing to comply with a continued order under the Reopening Ontario Act. Both men are expected to appear in court via video link tomorrow for a bail hearing. Good. There's more of us than there are of them. Keep that in mind. And yes, they're going to hit you for trespass on your own property. And there were, what, like 80 police officers out there I've seen in some pictures. I've looked into this a little bit. I didn't even hear about this until last night. This happened on Thursday, apparently. But 80 cops to come and frogmount march one barbecue owner out. But good. It's good to see our neighbors to the north also standing up to the government. Once again, there are more of us than there are of them. Let's keep going. From Fox. More people died of suicide in Japan in 1 month than the entire coronavirus pandemic. From Vandana Rambaran. Japan is struggling with mental health crisis as the coronavirus pandemic rages on, with more people dying in 1 month from suicide than from COVID-19 all year long. The National Police Agency said suicide surged to 2,153 in October alone, with more than 17,000 people taking their own lives this year to date, CBS reported. By comparison, fewer than 2,000 people in the country have died from COVID-19 in 2020. Experts say the pandemic has exacerbated mental health issues due to prolonged lockdowns, isolation from family members, unemployment and other financial concerns, and lack of school structure. We need to seriously confront reality, Chief Government Spokesperson Katsunobu Kato said this week, announcing new initiatives to help people via suicide hotlines and social media outreach. Japan has historically had high rates of suicide. That's true. It's honor killing in their culture. But the numbers have begun trending downward. Japanese authorities have increased suicide prevention funding, adding an additional $10 million to the $24 million budget. And we're seeing some of the rest of this here. I've got another story earmarked for the Red Ned show later for the lightning round. You know, you look in some of these homes, and first and foremost, I understand full well that the elderly are at the most risk for this. So very different things have to be mitigated in nursing homes. I understand that. Once you start cracking the 1% of people passing away from COVID, it's once you start getting over 70 years old. I understand and respect that. But once we've got to this point where people are choosing medically assisted suicides because they're so lonely, not only can they not see their families, but they're forced alone to eat in these nursing homes. They don't have group time sitting out watching The Price is Right in the general area anymore. They're lonely. So we've got to find a balance somewhere. And yes, people can assess their own risk. That's been the cornerstone of this country forever. What was it, something like half the people died coming over here from Europe to found this country? Those people would be rolling over in their graves right now if they could see what this country's doing right now. Over a virus with a 0.4% death rate. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Chinese sociologists. We will soon pass U.S. U.S. will not survive. We will drive U.S. to its death. From Ryan Saavedra. Chinese asshole. A Chinese sociologist recently delivered remarks at a forum reportedly in Shenzhen when he declared that it was only a matter of time before China overtakes the U.S. and effectively puts an end to it. The remarks from Dr. Li Yi were reported by MEMRI TV, a research organization that normally tracks Islamic extremism around the world and anti-Semitism. Chinese sociologist Dr. Li Yi said in an October 16, 2020 speech delivered at the Shenzhen Dialogue Forum in Shenzhen, China, that China would overtake the United States in GDP by 2027, and that COVID-19 has been harmful to the US and Europe, but beneficial to China and North Korea, MEMRI reported. Dr. Yi holds a PhD in sociology from the University of Illinois And according to his LinkedIn account, he is a full-time professor at Renmin University in China. China. Following Dr. Yi's October 16th speech, Renmin University issued a statement denying his employment at the university. The most inflammatory quotes from the speech include, "It turns out China is going to overtake the US in 2027. It was said that this might be delayed for a year or two, but this year God has pulled off a little trick, right? God created COVID-19. And I wonder if that was the name of the scientist, because they do like to use three-letter words for names. God created COVID-19 and it spread to every country in the world. COVID-19 is bad for Europe and America, but it is beneficial for North Korea and China. We still have 4,000 dead, right? But 4,000 Chinese die versus 220,000 in the US. Citation needed, please. We haven't really lost a single person, or have we? We're close to 0 infections and 0 deaths. Citation needed, please. If 4,000 people out of 1.4 billion die, that's the same as no one getting sick and no one dying. Yeah, I haven't bought their fucking numbers since they started reporting that they had no more infections. I haven't bought a goddamn word of their numbers. In the global economy, China stands out. We are ahead of schedule in terms of overtaking the US. There will be no problem reaching this goal in 2027. The US will not survive. Well, broken clock, I guess. As long as 1.4 billion Chinese people eat, sleep, defecate, and urinate every day, as long as we go to work every day, we will drive the US to its death. With our factories, with suicide nets outside. Why do people want to buy stuff from these people? Seriously. I mean, okay, I get it. It's cheap. I've been broke before. I've not known where my next meal was coming from before. I've been at the bottom before. I understand wanting to buy cheap shit. But if these people are going to talk like this, why the fuck would you want to buy stuff from them? China's asshole. All right, let's keep going. I got one more news, and then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity, and we'll head on out of here. This is... Milwaukee man's stolen tire was replaced with a turkey. This came to me also from Yader Hay over in the Beauty and the Beta Frozen North server. From Katie DeLong. A man told Fox 6 News a tire was stolen from his vehicle and replaced with a turkey. And there is the brake rotor sitting on a Genio turkey. I've never seen anything like... the victim said he had just moved to the north side from Nashville, and he was getting ready to work days before Thanksgiving on Monday, November 23rd, when he noticed it and was shocked. I've never seen anything like this before, the man said. I've heard of people putting bricks, but I've never heard of a turkey underneath. I hope you enjoy the tire because you could have gave the turkey to somebody who really needed it. The man said he filed a police report and added it will cost him $600 to get it fixed. And, I mean, dude is right. The local homeless shelter could have used that turkey. A food bank could have used that turkey. A church could have used that... Well, no, churches are shut down because Wu-flu. Kami fucking Koof or whatever the fuck. But there's so many other places that could have used that turkey than propping up a Hyundai. But there it is. All right, and that's it for the news for the day. And the last thing that we do on a Monday is something that restores my faith in humanity. Because everything is so negative here. So I always try to look at some of the positive for this. So, coming from Variety. Because the music artists want to get out there. That's what they do, is they perform. If you've ever watched a Stephen Ignoramus music stream, he performs. These people, without being able to perform, are going nuts. That's why football is open, and that's why we saw the article from the Country Stars a couple weeks ago talking about, well, if they can go out and celebrate in the streets, shoulder to shoulder, then we should be able to have a concert. So, music legends Eric Clapton, Van Morrison team for anti-lockdown single Stand and Deliver from Naman Ramachandran. Music legends Van Morrison and Eric Clapton have announced a new single, Stand and Deliver, in support of Morrison's Save Live Music campaign. The blues track was written by Morrison and is performed by Clapton. Morrison, best known for songs like Brown Eyed Girl, Domino, and Wild Night, as well as seminal albums Moon Dance and Astral Weeks, released 3 songs protesting the UK lockdown over September and October, titled Born to be Free, As I Walked Out, and No More Lockdown. Proceeds from Stand and Deliver will go to the Morrison's Lockdown Financial Hardship Fund, which helps musicians facing difficulties as a result of the coronavirus and resulting lockdown measures. Clapton, the only 3-time inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, called the dearth of live events due to lockdown restrictions deeply upsetting. There's so many of us who support Van and his endeavors to save live music. He's an inspiration, Clapton said. We must stand up and be counted because we need to find a way out of this mess. The alternative is not thinking about live music will never recover. Eric's recording is fantastic and will clearly resonate with many who share our frustrations, said Morrison. It is heartbreaking to see so many talented musicians lacking any meaningful support from the government, but we want to reassure them that we are working hard every day to lobby for the return of live music and to save our industry. England on Thursday announced a return to the 3-tier system after lockdowns lift on December 22nd. A number of cities, including the capital region of London and Liverpool, fall under the lesser restrictions of Tier 2. A virus has claimed, so far, more than 57,000 lives in the UK. Yeah, I mean, once again, it's all about risk and risk assessment. If you don't want to be out on the risk, stay home. Now, for Van Morrison and Eric Clapton, I understand some of the criticism with this. These guys can live for the rest of their lives never performing another show because they have banked up so much money throughout the course of their incredible careers. But there are other people. Your local stagehand at your local Broadway production probably didn't know where his next meal was coming from before the pandemic hit, and now he can't go out and perform. Some of them are starving actors, starving musicians. Friend of the show, Brady Leonard, hasn't been able to go out and tour for 9 months. Basically just operating on, I believe he said he is an Uber driver. So operating on Uber and whatever he gets from donations from the Patreon. Stephen Ignoramus. Yes, he's getting money in, but, I mean, he had a little bit of a cut from his music teaching gig. So it's not just, oh, you can't go shopping at your local mom and pop store. People like this can't work. And yes, I would hope that Van and Eric do put some money in of their own to try and help some of these starving artists, but the fact that they're coming out and standing up to their governments as well, and a lot of these guys have been real big government guys for a long time, but they're even coming out and saying enough is a fucking enough. That's what restores my faith in humanity. Even the uber left that will accept the authoritarianism eventually are coming out and saying enough is enough. It's time to get back to regular life. And that's what restores my faith in humanity. And that is where we're going to call it for the day here. So, thank you to everybody who came out and hung out with us. We will be back here later on today with the RedNet Show. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing some of you guys in the chat as well. And if you are lurking, make sure you get that last minute message up into the chat so I can make sure to read your name and thank you personally, because I keep everybody's name and thank them personally on my notebook here throughout the week. That will be on Friday, so come and hang out with us again. We hope that we will see you at the time. But until then, whether we see you tonight or tomorrow morning for more Contemporary, my name is Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.